What's up, my mod monsters? Do you want your NES to look like this? Well, then stick around. What up, peeps? It's your boy Modded Mutant here, and today I'm going to show you guys how to modify your NES shell, put a window inside there, and put some LED lights in it. Make it look real nice. First, we got to take these 6 screws off at the bottom of your console. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and I'm going to show you experienced modders where the positive and negative is. Here's the positive right here. You solder your red wire there, and your negative is right up here. Solder your black wire there. Solder a LED light to it, and you should be good to go. Let's test that theory, though. I'm going to be using an LED strip, so I'm going to do my red wire right here. Get that bad boy on there real nice. And let's do the black wire up here. Get that grounded. And I just got a tiny little strip of LED light attached to the end of this, just so you guys can see. Here it is. I turn the console on. Boom. There you go. Now, I found these LED strips on Amazon. There's a whole roll of them that you can buy. They're pretty nice. You know, they got the positive here, your ground, and the data that just sends a signal from this nice little board right here. And, you know, it's got it all labeled for you. You got mode up, mode down, speed. Here's your positive, negative. And then here's 3 little buttons for the mode up, mode down, and speed. And every time you hit it, it changes the way your lights look. And we're going to incorporate this into the build so we can change our lights. Next, we're going to figure out our design on our shell here so we can see the game and the LED lights whenever we get them in there. And I want my whole cartridge to be seen, basically. I mean, it's not going to be seen all the way because you can see it sticks out just a hair on the front right there. And but you're still going to see most of the cart. I went ahead with this square with curved edges designed. I liked it. It was simple. I almost traced the cartridge and made it look like a cartridge on top, but I scratched that idea. So we're going to go ahead and cut this bad boy out. And I'm using this Dremel here. I got this cool little attachment on the front to keep it flat. And here is the drill bit that I'm using. It is for this, so it works pretty good. Don't forget to wear your protection, peeps. You need your eyeballs. We're going to go ahead and cut this thing now. And please stay on the inside of your line. You are not perfect in any way, shape, or form. And you will mess this up. I have messed up so many consoles by trying to go straight to the line. And then I had to make my hole bigger because I got to file it down. And I messed it up. Let's just stay on the inside of the lines and we'll file it later. Alright, here's what it looks like. Pretty rough edges. You know, but we're going to take care of that with a hand file. And we had just missed these tabs, so no cutting there. Don't forget the vacuum, peeps. Clean your mess up. Alright, so here is the file that I'm using. Nice and flat on one side, and it is super curved on the other. I love this hand file. I use it on all my projects. Curved for those curvy edges, flat for the straight. Get yourself one. I got it at Walmart. It's awesome, and it's going to clean this up real nice and make it look professional. Alright, peeps, pro tip. Don't file in one spot for too long. You're going to put a low spot in there, and then you're going to mess it all up, and you're going to have to file it out wider. Clean your mess up, people. Don't work dirty. Clean your mess up. Clean your mess up. Clean your mess up. Alright, so here's what it looks like all cleaned up. You know, that file really did a good job. It looks pretty. And now it's time to install some plexiglass. I'm using some really thin stuff here. And you can get bigger if you want, but we're just going to cut it out to size here, measure everything, cut out all the notches we need necessary to fit this thing in here flat. Make sure it's flat. And this is what it looks like when it's all done, all cut out. Now it's time to glue it. Here's the hot glue gun I use. And we're going to peel this stuff back off of here real quick, get it set in place, and let's glue this bad boy where it needs to go. Make sure it's flat. I've actually glued one before and somehow it wasn't flat, and I had to rip it all up and then scrape off all the glue that was all over everything and get it back and prepped ready to do it again. So don't mess it up. We're going to glue this bad boy in there. Don't get it seeping out the edges here. Keep it on the outside, and it's going to come out pretty. Check her out. Got a nice little window in there. I see you peeping through my window, Tom. Don't be peeping at me. I see you. All right, so here's what it looks like. Let's move on here and keep it going. All right, so this is what it looks like with the cartridge in there. You can see most of the cart, and you'll see those lights shining through when we put them in, all nice and beautiful looking. But for now, let's move our attention to this B button that I have off of a Game Boy Advance. We're going to use this B button and put it in the back of the console here so we can control the lights and the different patterns that are going to show, either like a long pulse or a flash. I got a bunch of Game Boy buttons laying around because I mod Game Boys all the time, so this makes for the perfect button to hit these little buttons and control these LED lights. And I think I'm going to put it right here, the controller, and if I'm going to put it there, I need to extend these wires because they are not long enough to reach the pins that we're soldering to. And don't forget to buy you guys some heat shrink. I got mine on Amazon. Nice little tubing for these wire projects. I zoomed in a little bit for you guys, but you can't really see it. So but here we go. Let's get this thing all soldered together. Put the heat shrink over it before you solder. And I got my little helping hand here. We're just going to use some flux, solder these bad boys here to extend them, and then we're going to heat shrink it all up nice and pretty. That way nothing touches and shorts out. You don't want anything to short out. You'll fry your console. I fried a PSP trying to install LEDs one time. We don't want that. So let's heat shrink this bad boy up, and let's wipe it off a little bit. Some of the flux is seeping through from the heat. We're just going to test fit, make sure this is long enough. It looks like it is. We're going to solder this thing in there. And this is our switch. This is going to stay here. Earlier in the video, that was just to show the advanced modders where the 2 pins are. That's all they're really concerned about. They know how to cut windows. They know how to reroute wires. This is for you guys that don't know. So here we go. Looks pretty good. Let's tuck this in, hide everything. Get it all nice and neat. And now I'm going to use this little plastic with sticky adhesive on the back that I got from work. I think it's a 3M product, but I just use it for spacing out the switch off the console, basically. So here we go. Here's the button. There's no way for the button to hit the little buttons on the switch yet, so this is how we're going to do it. We're going to stick a toothpick in there, cut it down to size, and we're going to glue that thing in there. So that little knob right there is going to press the button when we push it. So let's glue this bad boy in. This is what it looks like. And you want to make sure that that toothpick is sticking out just a little bit, so when you press it in, it's going to hit the little buttons on the switch. Alright, so let's figure out exactly where we want this switch to sit and where we're going to drill this hole for this button. That looks pretty good to me. And let's just drill the hole. Be careful that you don't hit anything, components, when you're drilling through this. Drill very lightly towards the end. And then we're going to have to file it out to fit this button. I'm using a smaller version of the file we used earlier, flat on one side and curvy on the other. And we just go around that thing in a circular motion, never staying in one spot for too long to really ensure that we keep that circular shape here so the button moves smoothly through that circle. Just keep filing in and out until it fits perfectly, no binding or anything like that. Basically to where it just falls back out. And it looks pretty good. Alright, so let's clean up our mess a little bit here and let's dry fit this one more time. It looks good. Falling back out. Let's move on to these plastic tabs. You're going to want to put one on the left hand side of a tab so it doesn't turn to the left at all, to keep that letter B on the button in the right positioning. Now we're going to put another one on the other side of the tab to prevent it from moving to the right at all. Alright, so Here's like a real version of it. So if I put a tab right here, it can't turn to the left, and I put one there or there, it can't turn to the right, and it'll keep that B on the button in the right direction. Now I like using these plastic tabs because they have sticky adhesive on one side, and you can test fit it where you want it, and then if you like it, you can glue it. Now you can see I put one there, and that'll prevent it from turning at all. And now we're just going to stack a couple of these, stick them together on top of each other, 3 or 4, probably 4. Looks good here. I think that looks like the right height. Yeah, so 4 of them stacked on top of each other is going to hold that switch there at the right height. Now that we have them stuck together, we should probably glue them. That way they don't move at all. And then we'll stick this down in there where it's going to go. And we'll also glue that right to the console. Once we got it on there, we're also going to dab a bunch of glue around it to hold it in there securely. Just make sure you don't get glue where it's going to obstruct the button whatsoever. So now we need to do the other side. So now we need to cut 4 more of these plastic tabs, peel off all the paper, stick them all together, and we need to glue the outside of these things real good so they don't come apart. Let it dry. And now we need to put it on the other side of the button for the switch to hold it up level. And this is looking like it's going to be a good spot, as you can see. So now we're going to glue it down really, really good so it doesn't move. Be careful of the button. Don't glue the button in. It needs to be able to move. And this is what it looks like. The 2 tabs to prevent it from spinning, and then the 2 stacks on each side to hold the switch away from the console so the button can press it. So now let's glue one side down really good, not both sides, one side down really, really good, and hold it there and let it dry. And you want to make sure it's pressed down really good so that the toothpick on the button can come in contact with the button on the switch. Now we're going to glue down the other side really good, press it down while it's drying, and voila. This is the finished product. You can see when I click it, it clicks. And when I plug this thing in and turn it on, you can see when I press the button, it changes the pattern of the lights. I think that's a real cool addition to this console. We have full control. Alright, so let's desolder these wires, and let's go ahead and solder on this LED strip that we're going to use. I got mine off Amazon. And now let's go ahead and route this wire to the top part of the console so when we open it, we can clamshell it open. So an easy way to get up under these LEDs is just wedge something underneath there and separate that gel from the top of it so you can access these points here. Put a little bit of flux on there and tin the points. Okay, so the red wire goes to the positive. The white wire goes to the negative. And the green wire goes to data. So let's solder these bad boys in, and then we have to route this wire to the top of the console. And it has sticky adhesive on the back of these strips. You just stick it there and cut it on the line it says to cut it. Don't cut it anywhere else or you're going to ruin the strip. So I cut it, and now I'm cutting the gel back, and I'm tinning these points so I can extend some wires off of the side of this thing and run it to the other side of the console. So what I mean by that is I'm taking these wires and I'm tinning them to there, and I'm running it to the other side of this console. That way there's not a LED strip running across the whole thing, because there's not very much room to work with here. And I'm pretty sure that if I just run the LED strip across to the other side, I won't be able to close the console up. So we're going to run these wires across. We're going to glue this bad boy in real good here on the corner, just so it doesn't pull up when I start pulling on these wires and routing them. And we're going to go ahead and test fit. Looks like it can close pretty good. Now we're going to glue the crap out of these wires, and you want to kind of move that glue over the top of the wires, encase the wires in the glue. That way they stay down. And now that we have done that, let's move on and tin this other side and get these wires soldered up to this other strip that we're going to use here, and solder these wires right to that bad boy. Keep in mind the arrows on the strip, it tells you which way the current flows, so don't put it in reverse. Make sure you're putting it with the arrows. Now, like I said, red to power, white to ground, and green to data. And let's go ahead and use my helping hand here, because I don't have 3 hands. We'll get this bad boy soldered up here, and then you can sticky adhese it right to the console. Now, I did a kind of boo-boo later on, you'll see. I put it here over the vent, and when the lights are on, you can see it. And I should have put it over here. So keep that in mind. You might want to route it way over there. Alright, so now that that's done, let's plug this bad boy in and turn it on and see what it looks like. And there you can see that strip that I said you might want to move off the vent. But that's okay, I can move mine anytime I feel like it. But this is what it looks like. The button's working good. Everything looks real nice. Look at that. That thing is sick, especially with that gold Zelda in there shining off of there. And here's another angle from the cart slot. Look at that thing, man. That thing's pretty badass. And now, if you want to learn how to do the controllers, let's do the controller. Alright, so let me show you experienced modders where the positive and negative is. The longer leg is the positive. And here's your positive and negative right here on the controller. Positive on the left, negative on the right. When you touch it, it lights up. This is what it looks like in the dark. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Alright, so here's the RGBs that I'm using. They are slow changing RGB LEDs. That's your positive. That's your negative. Alright, let's have one last good look at this thing before we begin on the shell modification for the controller. Here's what it looks like. And it looks like a money. Alright, so we're going to have to cut out a little area so this light can shine through to the buttons. Approximately right there. And we're going to need to trim that out with flush cutters or something. The light's going to sit exactly like this, shine directly into that little crevice and light the buttons up. So we're going to cut this thing, cut away, file away, razor blade away. And this is what it kind of looks like. So let's get one of those plastic pieces that I had before with the sticky adhesive on the back. We're going to stick it on the opposite end to stop that light from bleeding through. We want it to bleed into where the buttons are, and we want it to stay in there. We don't want it to shine past the buttons. So we're going to go ahead and put that plastic piece there and glue it down real good. Make sure you don't glue the buttons. We need them to move freely. We don't want any of the silicone sticking or anything like that. Next, we're going to come over to the D-pad, and we're just going to cut a little slot out and stick that LED pointing directly towards it so the light shines right inside that circle and stays inside that circle. So we just cut it out, make everything flush, make it look pretty. Cut, grind, file. And we got that thing looking good. Here's a close-up of both. And now the light will sit right there, but make sure it's not poking too far in and touching the side of that D-pad. It will stop it from pressing. So over here on the top left is where the power supply is going to come from, and we need a positive and negative for that, and we need a positive and negative for the D-pad. So we got one stretched to the A and B, one stretched to the D-pad, and we're just setting ourselves up here, wiring these together so when I solder them both to the same point, they're not falling apart. And we're going to solder these right to the motherboard, tin these things up, and get them soldered on there. Negative is at the bottom, positive is at the top. That looks good. Get the second one going. Come on. Looking lovely. Absolutely lovely. There you go. The short ones are going to go to A and B. The long ones are going to go to the D-pad. So let's strip all these wires off of here and get them ready for the LEDs. And we're going to take one of these LEDs right here, and we're going to solder. So we're going to take the red wires and solder them to the positives of the LEDs, and the white wires will be soldered to the negatives of the LEDs. And we're going to use heat shrink. Here's a better picture of the heat shrink from earlier. Same one we used earlier. We're going to cut 4 pieces of that and slide them onto the wires. Do it before you solder, because you can't do it once you done soldered it. So we're going to take our long leg on the LED and solder it to the short red wire, and then take our short leg on the LED and solder it to the short white wire. And then we're going to heat shrink that bad boy up real nice and neat, keep it from shorting out. Now we're going to take our attention to the long wires. So same thing, long leg on the LED goes to the red wire. Short leg on the LED goes to the white wire. And I just trim the legs down one at a time so I don't forget which one is which as I do this, so I don't have such long legs. Now we're going to heat shrink it and we're good to go. This is what it looks like. Alright. Now, route your LEDs to where they're going to go and glue them babies down. We are on the home stretch here. Make sure you put glue over the top of it too so it doesn't just pop right off. And make sure you're not too far into that D-pad hole to where you're going to obstruct the D-pad from being able to move around. And once this stuff dries, you will be good to go. It's looking pretty good here. Put the buttons in, put the rubber silicone pieces in, make sure that everything fits good. You don't want no problems. Everything's looking pretty good. Let's close this baby back up with all these screws. And let's see what this baby looks like, shall we? Now I know that I put the original buttons back in, but I ordered some clear ones, so when they get here, I'll put them in. Look at that thing, just 2 diodes, and it gives us all that light. Here's another angle. Things looking marvelously cheesy. I wish I could find clear silicone start and select buttons. That would be awesome. But I couldn't find them. And here it is during the daylight. Still pretty bright. And that's going to be it for this tutorial, my mod monsters. It is the modded mutant himself. And I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I am out.